All right, welcome back. This is going to be the 5th video in the Ascend Tournament 133X Fishing Kayak build series. As you can see here, I've put on some of the additional mighty mounts and gear tracks. I've gone ahead and I've put up the cameras, the rod holders, some of the rod clips so I don't lose a rod should I choose to use that, and some of the other stuff, just kind of getting everything rigged up. But there are a few things left to do, mainly around wiring up for the fish finder, for the yak-power system with the second battery. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put some LEDs on the front. And I'm going to change a little bit. So right now, I think the yak-power system has this front port wired up to be B, or the bow, and then the one in the rear for stern, or S on the control panel. I'll leave the one for S alone. However, I'm going to use this one up front with number 1. So I'll just switch those around on the yak-power hub, and then the bow will actually go directly to the LEDs that I put on. That way I don't have to run anything out here or split it from behind. So that should be pretty simple. The other thing I'm going to do is split off from the main power here just to run a positive and negative back down over here to the center area. And then I will also put a splitter off of this power in for the yak-power system, also running a positive and negative over to here. Reason for that is, as you can probably see, I've got 2 voltmeters right here. One's going to be for the main battery and one is going to be for the auxiliary battery, or the battery up here that's going to be powering everything else. They're really nice. They can handle SLA, AGM, or they can do lithium even. And you can specify the cell count and whatnot so that it gives you at the very least a voltage reading that you can, do the math yourself, or you could use the capacity remaining on here, although that's probably not going to be all that accurate. To at least give you some sort of an idea on where you're sitting with your battery capacity. Okay, once I get these done, I'll use some goop around the back side of this just to make sure that it is nice and sealed. I didn't want to put it around the front for obvious reasons. It'll look pretty bad. Okay, so let's go on to what is going to be put on today. We're going to be using the Yak Attack fish finder mount. That's going to go right here. And then we'll be mounting the Garmin to that. I'll go in somewhere right around here for the power for the Garmin. We have a Wilderness Systems through haul kit. We have the Garmin itself. Also, for the Garmin, we have this 3D printed hood that I whipped up. Credit to its maker on Thingiverse. I'll link to that down in the description in case somebody wants that. These are the red and green LED lights that we'll be putting up front here. We've got a few yak-power Y adapters. We have the plugs for the Drock voltage meters. Got some primary wire, just positive and negative. A few zip ties, a couple more yak things. And then we've got what I'm going to be using for my auxiliary battery. Now, what this is like a $10 water box, or a $10 waterproof box from Walmart. I'll link to that down in the description as well. But inside of that, I have a 4-cell 35 amp hour battery. This I used to use, actually, for those of you who have followed the channel for a while, this used to be the battery for the My Twin Dream long range FPV platform. Could be used for search and rescue or whatever, but yeah, this is quite a nice battery here. Again, it's 4S10P, so I needed to step it down to 12 volts, so I have a Castle CC-BEC Pro here, taking it from 14 volts or 4S down to 12 volts, and then it's going to be able to output a maximum of 15 amps. I've got that all wired up in here. Got it coming to just your standard yak-power plug here, and then we'll go, and then I put a actual inline switch here, as you can see, to either turn power on or off to the BEC, so that it's not continually draining any power whatsoever from the battery. Because as you're aware, without an active BMS in here, that would be very bad. All right, so This is going to go down in there. I may actually put a little bit of dual lock on the bottom, maybe just like one little piece here and here, and that'll really secure this and lock it in place in there. But other than that, let's get to wiring this up. I'm going to skip past a lot of the actual like working inside the hull. It's going to be very difficult to see, but I'll show you each one of the Y adapters that I make prior to installing it in there. And then I will see you guys again when it's finished towards the end. Okay. So here is the battery cable that is going to be used for the auxiliary battery, or this 12-volt battery right here that I just got done showing you. So what we've got here, coming out of the battery, we will have this plugged in right there. This will come down, plug into the yak-power to provide power to everything else. And then this other one will come down and plug into the voltage meter, which will then let us know approximately how much voltage we have left remaining on this. So with that, let's go ahead and just set this one here. Let these cool down for a couple minutes and I'll burn my hand again. And I'll make the next one and I'll see you guys in a minute. Okay, here's the second one. Now what I'm going to do to just kind of clean these up is I'm going to wrap it in some, actually I'll just use some zip ties ever so often. I was going to wrap it in wire loom tape, but that'll take forever. And then for the last part, I want to really kind of support these smaller wires. So I'm going to, the solder joints I mean, by the smaller wires. So I'm going to take this around this. And for this one, I'm just going to use a little bit of electrical tape. And we will just kind of go around it a couple times. That'll hold all that together and keep any stress off of the solder joint, because it is going from about a 12 gauge to an 18 or 20 gauge wire. So, but again, we're not going to be pulling any current from this. Well, nothing really, maybe a little, mainly using it just to detect the voltage. Okay, now then, what we've got here is failure to communicate. All right, that is coming from the battery. So we are going to connect that up there. Electrical tape. Okay. This should go without saying, guys, but if you are going to be messing with something and rewiring it or splicing things or do whatever, make sure that you don't get your polarity reversed. Make sure all of your positives are going to positive and all of your negatives are going to negative, especially if you're messing with a lithium pack, and even more especially if that said lithium pack doesn't have an active BMS in it, like this one for instance. I use, so little info. The charger that I use to charge this is actually what balances the cells. So it's not like I'm doing it improperly or unsafe. It's just the battery. I figured I've got it, might as well use it. No point in buying a new one. So what we're going to do here in just a second is we're going to test this. Just want to get a little more electrical tape on this one. Come on, there we go. Okay. All right, that should be good. So we can tuck that back in there now, but I do need to feed this down through the hull. All right, first thing we're going to do, I've got this plugged in. I'm not going to actually turn it on, but I'm going to come back here and I am going to power this on. We should see something, hopefully. Here we go. Power it on. We now have power. Oh, look at that. We got power at the boat. We got power right here. Now it's saying that it's 13.2 volts. That's fine. I will have to go back in here and modify this one later to make sure that it's reading correctly. The proper type of battery, I mean the chemistry, and that it's not going for SLA or AGM, and that it is actually set to lithium 3-cell or 12 volt. So, but we know it works. So here's what's cool about this. You can turn this one on or off. So if you're just out and about and you're like, oh, how much battery do I have left on my main? I'll label this main and this one accessory. Just hit it. Now you can see, turn it off, done. So I will come back here. We do have power to the trolling motor. and now we have GPS lock. So I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect this and turn that, and we have no power anywhere. So that worked fantastic. Okay, so for the next one, we are going to be using this. We're gonna do the same thing again. I will hit this, that'll provide power through, and we should immediately get power on the voltmeter, but we will not yet have power into the yak-power because I hadn't turned it on. So let's find out. There we go, we got power on. We have power at the voltmeter and it's reading 12.3 volts. Again, because I actually have the Castle Creations CCBEC Pro set to output 12.5 volts, I believe it is. So 12.3, 12.5, I mean, it's close enough for me. From the 14.8 or 4-cell pack that is inside of here. So now let's find out if we have power to the yak system. And we do. So I'm gonna go ahead and power that off. We'll power this off. We'll power this off. And the next thing I'm gonna do is switch a couple of the items down there, and then we'll get to the next step, which is going to be running the lights and then running the Garmin. And then that's it, guys. Then we are going to hit the water. Super excited for that one, and I really hope that you join in on that. But we're not finished just yet, so I'm just going to fast forward. See you guys in a few minutes. We'll have the Garmin mounted, and we will have the lights going. We'll test everything. If there's anything along the way that I think you guys should see or might find interesting, I'll stop and we'll talk about that again. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so I couldn't get it all finished last night, so I finished up the rest of it today. It is done. We are finished. So the only thing left to do is kind of give you guys a quick walkthrough of the kayak. There's been a couple things that changed since the first video. A couple things I didn't use, a few other things that I bought or created that I wasn't talking about in the first video, but it is finished, guys. One thing I can tell you is I ended up finding a problem with the T-bone hitch adapter. So I returned that, but in addition to returning it, I got to thinking and I said, you know, do I really want to be fussing with that every single time I want to take this thing out, which will be quite often? No, I don't. So I went ahead and I picked up a trailer from Right On Trailers. It's en route as we speak. Should be here in about a week or so, and I'll get that thing put together. Get a plate for it, that should be same day, and then I'll be able to get this thing out on the water. So about a week from now, maybe a couple weeks from now, worst case scenario, there will be a video for the maiden voyage of this thing, and hopefully we'll hook a fish on that as well. So without further ado, let's check it out one final time. We'll give you a walkthrough and we'll see how things go. So again, I showed you the battery yesterday that is going to be the auxiliary battery. I did go ahead and put a couple pieces of dual lock on here. And the other pieces of the dual lock are down inside the hull. So let's go ahead and just get this thing set down in here. It doesn't even have to be perfect right now. We'll get it plugged in and then set in there. There we go. Get it set in there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this powered on, and you will see this, which is going to be the auxiliary power voltmeter power up, and then I'll be able to power up the yak-power, and as I'm doing it, might as well go ahead and get the main battery plugged in as well. All right, main battery is on. We have power on the trolling motor. The auxiliary battery is on. You can see here for the main voltmeter, we have a readout. It is at 100% with 13.2 volts. The auxiliary battery is at 100% with 12.3 volts. This is just because it's trying to detect 12 volts, so anything over 12 is going to read 100%. But there we go. So let's go ahead and power up the yak-power. There we go. And we just got GPS lock on that. We do have the Garmin set up here, along with, again, the 3D printed shade that I put on there. So let's go ahead and power up main. Go ahead and power on the Garmin. There we go. As you can see there, that's working fine. Also, for the bow lights, I did go ahead and install the green and red LEDs. So go ahead and power those on. And I will give you guys a quick look at that. All right, so let's go ahead and turn off the bow lights. Additionally, I now have this yak-power port up there set to number 1. Number 2 is not hooked up to anything right now, and stern is still hooked up to the port back there. So let's go ahead and get the Garmin powered down. And let's see, while we're here, we can go ahead and check out the trolling motor. Where is the remote? Just so you can see, everything does indeed work. So let's go ahead and get that going. There we go, as you can see right there. And we can turn it. All right, stop that. Okay, I think that's all we need for the power right now. So let's go ahead and get the yak-power turned off, auxiliary battery turned off, and go ahead and break that. There we go. So we have now eliminated power. I did go ahead and rig up a retrieval system for the motor to be able to bring it back up or stow it. So very similar to what others have done. I've just got the lever here, ran back to this little ball. So if I pull this, that will bring the lever down. And then I will actually use these pieces to bring the motor back in. So let's go ahead and give it a shot right now so you can see. Go ahead and pull the ball first. Down, motor up. And then of course, you know, it might have a little bit of your need for your foot to kick it. There we go. And same thing for deploying it. So if I go ahead and pull down on the lever, notice the motor goes down, locks, deployed. So there's that. Yeah, I will do a more in-depth video once we get this thing out onto the water of exactly every single last thing that I've put on it, and if I add anything else new to it. Okay, so that's it, guys. I appreciate you sticking around and watching the series. I can't wait to get this thing out on the water and hook up with some fish. So yeah, I'll see you next time.